Horns up and welcome to the second episode of the Headbangers Kitchen podcast. For those who don't know, my name is Sahil. Today I thought we would talk about food and cooking because that is the cornerstone of Headbangers Kitchen. And I have been cooking and eating for as long as I can remember. And I'm pretty sure most people have been eating for as long as they can remember. But cooking is something that not everyone really enjoys. For a lot of people, it's a task and a chore. But for me, it's something that I had a passion for, and it's something I've been doing now for very many years. And I'm very lucky and extremely grateful that I'm able to do it for a living today, to make cooking videos here on YouTube. So that sort of felt like an important topic for this podcast. In fact, it's the perfect thing to talk about. And I would love for you guys to share with me your early food memories. Are there any dishes that have made a lasting impression on you, something you ate as a kid? Or what about your cooking journey? When did you start cooking? When did you fall in love with cooking? So I'd love to know your stories as well. If you can leave a comment, that would be amazing. And now I'd like to share my story with you. For as long as I can remember, I've loved food. I have been, a very picky eater, to be honest. I don't like a lot of spice in my food. I like my food to be cooked a certain way. And I'm pretty sure I was a problem child for my parents. But nonetheless, I loved food. My family has always enjoyed good food. My grandparents, all of them were good cooks. My mom cooks pretty well. We also had a live-in maid when I was growing up, and she was a fabulous cook as well. So I was always kind of surrounded by good food. And I think some of my earliest memories of food, I think one of them was definitely going to Dubai and eating Pizza Hut. Because in those days, in the 80s and early 90s, there were no multinational corporations that had like food chains. There were no food chains in India. No McDonald's, Burger King, Pizza Hut, none of that stuff. So all those foods were like, wow, that's amazing. Because it was things we'd never had, we'd never tasted. In fact, most Western foods like burgers and pizzas and things like that were not even served in most restaurants. There were like very few places where you could get it. So everyone's reference and standard of what a good burger or pizza was, unless you traveled abroad, you really had no clue. So I remember eating Pizza Hut in Dubai and going crazy about it and just being in love with that. And I also remember, funnily enough, eating snails in Dubai, and I loved it. I think I may have been 8 or 9 years old, but I loved them. And I think one of the things I've been very lucky with as I've been growing up is my parents ate everything. So we had all kinds of meat in the house. We ate organs as well. There was no like yuck in the house. Like if you go to a lot of people's houses and you tell them about certain foods, they're like, oh, yuck, how can you eat that? Like, how do you eat goat brain? Or yuck, how do you eat chicken heart? But we had everything at home: beef, pork, chicken, mutton, fish, prawns, you name it, we ate it. And even offal, like I grew up eating kapuras, which is goat balls. And for me, I loved it. It was so delicious. My grandmother used to make this amazing curry. In fact, I've even done that recipe on the channel. But when you tell people, hey, would you, eat goat testicles? They'll be like, no, yeah, gross. So for me, I've always had an open mind for food, because I've grown up in that way where nothing was like taboo or nothing was bad. It was like either you like the taste or you don't like the taste. There's nothing that is bad food and good food. There's nothing that is off the table. If you want to eat a horse and it's legal, you can go and eat a horse. It doesn't matter, and my grandfather was a hunter, so my mom also had eaten all sorts of like rabbit and duck and all kinds of meat while growing up. So it was very normal in my house, and I always found it strange when people were like, oh, we don't eat that. And I would just be like, it's all food, man. So those are some of my early memories of like eating food. And the thing about cooking is, I guess being a picky eater, at some point I just started making my own food because I wanted it a certain way. And like my parents didn't have that thing like, oh, if my kid wants this, I'm going to move, heaven and earth to make it happen. Like, if Sahil doesn't want to eat what's made at home, he can, I'll order him something or we'll make something special for him. No. If I didn't like the food, that's my problem. So you can either eat it quietly or you go cook your own food. And I think I actually probably did that. And somewhere along the way, I started cooking. I don't remember exactly when, but like one of my first sort of cooking memories is when I was maybe 10 years old or something. We had gone on a family vacation. So it was my parents, us kids, and there were like, I think maybe 5 more couples. So it was about like 12 people or 14 people in total on that holiday. And I remember cooking breakfast for all 14 people. I was taking eggs to order. So I wasn't even like making one big batch of like scrambled eggs and like, here you go. No, I was like, what do you want to eat? Scrambled? Okay, I'll make a scrambled egg. You want fried egg? Okay, what kind of fried egg? Sunny side up, double fry, what do you want? And I literally cooked for everybody. And that is the earliest sort of memory I have about cooking. I also took cooking as a hobby in school. So I was again very fortunate to be in a school that had like, I don't know, I think it was 4 periods a week assigned to hobby class. So you could, pick music, you could pick dance, there was a NCC cadet program as well. There was painting, there was pottery, a whole bunch of stuff. And one of the things was cooking. And I took that as my hobby. And at that point, I was really getting into cooking and food. And I had this whole plan in my head. Look, I'm going to, do this cooking as a hobby now. But once I finish school, I'm going to go to catering college. So that was the thing you did, I guess, in India. If you wanted to do anything with food, there's one catering college in Dadar, as far as I know, or as far as it used to be at least. And you would go there and you would, do a diploma or a degree course. Then you'd hopefully get a job in a restaurant and make your way to eventually having your own place. So I had that whole plan. I'm going to go to Dadar catering college, and I'm going to study there. And I had a friend, she owns the Leela Kempinski hotel. So her mom was like, yeah, if you finish your college, you can come and we'll give you a job in the Leela and all. And I was like, oh wow, this is like my whole career is like planned out. So that was literally my aspiration for like 2 years to be a professional chef. But life had other plans. I think this was around 99. Computers were starting to get really popular in India, and we had this gaming computer which was just a keyboard and a floppy disk drive on it, and you could play games on it. That was like the first iteration of a computer that we had at home. But there was a retail store across my school where they had this computer, like a proper desktop, the first desktop you could buy for home, and it had games and a whole bunch of stuff. And every afternoon we'd go from school and we'd like spend time on that computer. And I remember begging and pleading with my parents to buy me a computer. I think eventually I did get a computer because it was not something that they could say, hey, if you want a computer, go and build it. So I got a computer and I got really into like the internet and hacking, and I thought I'm going to become a computer engineer, which was hilarious because like in 2 years I was like, you know what, I want to play death metal music, because towards the end of my schooling I got into death metal music, or heavy metal music rather, and the genre of heavy metal is such that it really inspires you and makes you want to write your own music and play your own music and basically become like a musician. And within like 2 years of sort of falling in love with metal music and starting to learn guitar and singing, I was just like, yeah, this is what I want to do with my life. So that kind of became my life's mission, my focus, and it literally has been even today. And it's been 25 years since I started. So that kind of took over my life. But the thing with cooking and food is it never goes away, right? Because you are constantly eating. I mean, well, you have to eat at some point. So cooking and food was always on my radar. In fact, when we were, when I was a young metalhead and I was organizing concerts in my hometown, in Bombay where I live now. I don't know why I said hometown, but I would invite bands from different cities, and most of the times, because we were always on a tight budget, I would have those bands stay at my place. So, we'd put some mattresses out and everyone would just sleep on the floor. And then in the morning, I would make breakfast for everyone. So I started to get a reputation in the local scene for my cooking skills, and bands would actually talk about my omelets. And I don't know how many of you know, but my band is called Demonic Resurrection. For those who are worried, it's not satanic, it's not religious, we don't care. I just like demons and, that kind of imagery. It looks cool to me. Lord of the Rings, think of the orcs and the trolls and all the, the evil Nazguls and all that. So I just like that imagery. So that's why demonic. But because I was so focused on my music and promoting my music and all, everything I did had demonic in front of it. So I was Demonic Studios. I had a recording studio. I was Demonic Studios. And I would my omelets were called Demonic Omelets. In fact, we even put out a song with my comedy rock band called How to Make a Demonic Omelet. So a lot of fun things we did. And it was somewhere in 2007, Facebook had just taken off, and I think the first camera phones were starting to show up, and I had a Sony W810i, if I don't have that information wrong. And I took a picture one day of my dinner which I had cooked, because again, you have to remember, I'm still cooking all my meals because I'm a fussy eater, and most of the time I won't eat what's cooked at home. So I used to go shopping and buy my groceries. I used to cook my own food, or I tell my mom if she's going shopping to bring me some stuff. So I was still very active in cooking and making stuff for myself, but there was nothing beyond that, cooking for bands and cooking for friends and family and things like that. But in 2007, when I got that camera phone, one night I clicked a picture of what I was eating, and Facebook had this thing called Facebook Notes. So I made a Facebook note with my recipe written down. I think it was demonic creamy chicken or something like that. And it's still there on my Facebook. Let me know if you'd like to see me recreate my first official blog post recipe. And I started doing this, so Demonic Cookery episode 1. And I think over the course of 3 years, 2007, 8, 9 or so, I had 22 recipes up. And again, I was doing it just for fun on the side when I took a picture of something I ate, or if it seemed like it was something exciting. And I built this little collection of recipes. And at the same time, YouTube started to get really popular in India, because by now we've all got faster internet connections. Broadband has made its way to India, because before this we were all on dial-up. So I'm sure some of you will remember those modem sounds and staying up all night downloading music or movies or whatever it is you downloaded, and getting really large phone bills, and then having to face the wrath of angry parents. Good times growing up in India. But yeah, broadband was in. YouTube was starting to be accessed by more people, because obviously now we have better connections. And I remember watching a lot of recipe videos because I still like to cook. And I think it was Epic Meal Time was one of these channels that I saw that's really insane stuff. They're still around today, but they would take a chicken and they'd put the chicken in a duck, and the duck would go in a turkey, and the turkey would go in a pig, and then they'd cover the pig in bacon. And I just went nuts over their videos. I was like a fanboy. And I took a lot of inspiration from that for my own cooking. And there was another channel, it was an American barbecue channel, the Barbecue Pit Boys. I loved their stuff. And of course there was, Food Wishes, Chef John, Laura in the Kitchen. Then there was Nico from Australia, who I don't know if he does any stuff anymore, but lots of cooking creators that I followed, got ideas from. And it was in 2010 when my band made its first music video. I was like, I asked the director, because he was a friend of mine. He also played in a band. And I was like, listen, would you help me film my recipe video? Because I was like, I can put it on YouTube. And he's like, yeah, I can definitely do it for you. But he's like, I think just a cooking video would kind of be boring. So I was like, okay, cool. Let me think of something. And then I started to ideate, because for me at this point, everything I'm doing is still a way to promote my band and my music. Demonic Cookery. I mean, somebody's going to ask, why is it called Demonic Cookery? It's like, because I have a band called Demonic Resurrection. You should listen to it. And so I was like, okay, great. What we could do is we could do like a proper heavy metal show. So I'll cook a dish inspired by a band, and then I'll invite them to come and taste the dish, and I can interview them. And this was a great idea. So we came up with Headbanger's Kitchen. In fact, the name Headbanger's Kitchen was suggested by my then keyboard player Mephisto. And he actually came up with the name Headbanger's Kitchen. So I was like, great, let's do this. And we did that. And then, of course, the Headbanger's Kitchen journey is, again, got many different eras of it. But long story short, that's kind of how I got onto cooking on YouTube. And since then, Headbanger's Kitchen has evolved and it's gone through many iterations. I've done vlogging, grocery hauls, you name it. But the constant of this channel really has been the cooking, And I think going forward, that is also what I am most excited about, is sharing new recipes, is having new ideas, taking food to different places, things that maybe people have not done before, maybe my own take on certain things. Obviously the keto journey was fantastic. That was a big part of why this channel is here today, why I am being able to do this as my full-time job. But keto's time in the world has kind of dropped down. If you look at Google Trends, also keto peaked in 2018, 2019, and then crash, and now it's just like, okay. And personally as well, I couldn't keep up with the diet. So we are here now on this channel with a new direction, new ideas, and hopefully in the coming year we can build an audience that wants to watch a lot of cooking and wants to try new recipes, explore different cuisines. I don't know if you guys have any suggestions, ideas for dishes, cuisines you'd like me to cover. As always, leave me your suggestions and feedback. I'm here and I'm listening, and I'd love to hear about your cooking journey, about your earliest food memories, some food that maybe you grew up eating, like I said in the start of this episode. So that's kind of been my journey and my relationship with food. Today I've evolved into a totally different diet and lifestyle, which I discussed on the first episode, so you can listen to that and find out more about that. And I think this is a good spot to end this episode of the podcast. I hope you found something interesting, entertaining, maybe even insightful in this little conversation. And as always, I'd love to know other topics you'd like me to talk about and discuss. But for now, that's all from me, and I'll see you on the next episode. Until then, cheers and keep cooking.